It all started yesterday when I found this thing, this new species.
Which is now missing.
We think aliens are taking over our school.
All right, Casey, let's go alien for a second. Why here? Why Ohio?
If you were going to take over the world, would you blow up the White House Independence Day style or sneak in through the back door?
Hello and welcome to What Makes It Scary, a seasonal podcast unleashing the fear behind your favorite and not so favorite horror movies. I'm your host, Jody Henderson of Clever Girl Effects Studios, and with me, as always, Alex Vincent of Mr. Red Productions.
Jody. Aliens. Aliens. They're everywhere. They're everywhere and they're controlling everything. I have a whole thing about it. I got the string. I got the newspaper clippings. Aliens, Jody.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, we did a whole hell of a lot of research if it's not real. We're
Right.
talking about alien movies
We sure
today.
did. We went deep. We dove deep. We
Balls
saw deep. Jody, please. This is a classy show. We have been doing this for 2 years now. This will be our
This is our
third year.
Yes.
And in all that time, we've never done aliens.
Which is shocking.
It is.
Because you, Alexander,
Me.
love aliens.
Love aliens. I love space. Jody, I love space.
I know. Yeah,
I love space more than you.
I believe it. And I'm not even offended by it. No, but like you've even started watching like this new YouTube series.
Yeah, well, not new,
not new, but new to us watching it.
I've been binging the Crash Course Astronomy series. It is mind-blowing. It is space. I love it. I love space. Aliens are just so cool to me. I've always been like really fascinated by them. I've always liked Star Wars. I've been a nerd forever. Like forever.
It's so funny. I don't consider like Star Wars like an alien
Oh yeah, for
type
sure.
of thing, but I do for Star Trek. Figure that one out.
Well, the thing is, Jody, and we can get into this.
No, we won't.
Star Wars is more fantasy than sci-fi,
Yes,
and
I
Star
agree.
Trek is definitely more sci-fi than fantasy. And so the fact that there's aliens, it's whatever in Star Wars. It's like, yeah, they're aliens, but they might as well be elves, or they might as well be, dwarves or whatever. They could be whatever.
Right. When we first started dating, like we would be out anywhere and any type of alien memorabilia, you would seriously be like, I have to buy this for my dad. Like no matter what it was.
Because he likes aliens too.
I know, but it would be like the cheapest, stupidest thing. You're like, no. I like have to buy this.
Yeah.
So like, is your
aliens.
dad like a enthusiast of the extraterrestrial?
He likes sci-fi movies the same way I do, and so a lot of that gets tied up in there. I think it's just like, it's an easy thing to get for somebody who is into space, into sci-fi, because he likes the X-Files, which we're not really talking about the X-Files here today because it's less.
It's not a movie.
Well, it's not a movie, and so okay, this is something we have to talk about. This pertains to our
Yes.
thing. The delineation between horror and sci-fi.
That's a huge thing that needs to
Yeah.
be brought up before we just start discussing our movies today, for sure.
It's a very fine line. There are certain movies that we decided not to talk about because we just decided those aren't horror movies. They're
Right.
sci-fi.
Yeah, huge difference.
Mm-hmm. And it can be kind of nebulous. It can be hard. Nebulous because of space. Because, different people are going to have different ideas about them. But I think that it can be really hard to kind of define what a horror movie even is because
Right.
so many movies are so different. But I kind of treat it as like, how does the movie treat its alien characters?
Right.
If they are kind of a threatening force, that's to me horror. But sci-fi movies can have that too. And I'm talking, by the way, pure sci-fi, not like sci-fi horror, which there are movies like that. Alien, great example. That is a horror movie, capital H horror movie. It's also a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it also takes place in space.
Yeah. So things can be both. It can be very hard to define, but I think it's one of those things that you just kind of know when you see it.
Right.
Like there are movies like, for example, The Day the Earth Stood Still. We're not talking about that today
Right.
because that's not a horror movie.
Right. I mean, technically, like Jason X could be considered that because it takes place in space, but
Yeah.
no, we're
Right,
not
and
talking about that.
he's not
Even
an
though it's a great
alien.
movie, and everyone needs to just shut the fuck up about
It's
it.
a great movie.
It's a great movie.
It's good.
Just
It's
eat
good.
it.
Yeah. So I've been really excited about this. The minute we were like,
Building our season.
yeah, this was the one that I was like, that's the one. That's the one.
And I was excited because I knew you would be super excited about
I'm
it.
amped,
I
I'm
also
pumped.
just happen to like a lot of these movies. There's a few that I'm like, oh, good thing we put or not so favorite in our tagline.
For sure.
But yeah, so let's get into it.
Yeah, why don't we just start
Is
where a very good place to start would be the biggest one.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hiding it. We're going to talk about Alien. Ridley Scott's Alien 1978.
Picture it.
79. Whoa. Hold up. 79.
All right, this changes my whole
Jeez,
picturing it.
Pete.
Star Wars is 2 years old. It can talk at this point. It's out of diapers. Is it?
No.
Okay.
Not
I don't know
usually.
anything about
Sometimes,
babies.
Yeah. Only if you're very gifted are you out of diapers by 2.
Yeah. This movie feels like it's a pre-Star Wars movie, though. This
I
movie
agree.
feels early 70s.
We find that in a lot of films. That
Yeah.
we're just like, no way did this come. We do it with Jaws, too. We're like, no, this didn't come out before Jaws. Most of the time it does.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. This is a classic movie. It is iconic.
Right. I mean, I like to judge things by how like my mother knows them and to see if they're actually really popular.
That's a good.
So like if I showed my mom a picture like of a xenomorph, she could be like, "Oh yeah, Alien," because she doesn't like horror movies.
Right. But this transcends horror. This is just pop culture. Everybody knows Alien.
Yep.
This is a movie that it's a very, very great movie. It's good. I loved it. It's a good movie. It's very slow.
It's a slow burn, and not in a way that like Alfred Hitchcock is a slow burn.
Right. It's not. I mean, it's technically suspenseful, but
it's just kind of slow.
Yeah.
The sequels, which we'll touch on, we will not spend a lot of time talking about. They pick up. I think they're fine. I know a lot of people like to hate the fourth one, especially.
Oh yeah. Well, I think they're a fun watch.
Yeah.
Even the bad ones, and we'll talk more about movies that are fun and bad later on.
Yeah.
Especially the third one, I think is maybe the weakest point, just because it's so just kind of muddy and murky.
Yeah, I agree.
The fourth one's worse than the third one, but more fun to watch because it's just kind of really bad. So.
Yeah.
And then it gets into the just bizarre territory of these more modern movies, which I can't wait to get into.
Which I really like.
Yeah, I enjoy them a lot.
Alien Covenant is probably my second favorite Alien movie.
Wow, yeah. I like
and
how...
I put Alien as my first just because it's got such imagery.
We should rank these movies.
I was going to say we should, but we won't.
Okay, great. I think that, I agree. I think that Alien Covenant, both those movies are so well made.
Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
Right. Like Ridley Scott is an amazing filmmaker. Even if the movies are kind of nonsense, they're still great to look at. They're still just really, really well made. And the fact that they're just so balls to the wall, like nuts, is fun. Like I just think those movies are a lot of fun, and they're not bad in the way that like Resurrection is bad. So
right.
But before all that.
Well, I was just going to say, speaking of Ridley Scott, he's also new movie coming out, House of Gucci.
With America's alien, Adam Driver.
Oh, wow.
Look at him. Look at him.
I do look at him often.
Yeah, I know you do. Can't get you to look at me.
Yeah. It's awkward because your brother's name is Adam.
Oh, it is awkward, yeah.
So it's just, I say like Adam and I have to like differentiate who I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's always Driver though.
It's always Driver. Yeah. Okay. So yes, Alien, 1979. We have Ellen Ripley.
Not Ellen Ridley.
Ellen
Scott.
Yeah. Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
This was like her first.
This is a breakout role.
Breakout role. Iconic. This kind of has laid out the rest of her career.
Yep.
I mean, even like, I don't have her filmography on me at the moment, but like it goes into Ghostbusters, which then, just a bunch of different things.
I think this movie and Ghostbusters are the two kind of, they cement her in the horror world. Even though Ghostbusters is a comedy, I'd say first and foremost, it's still a horror movie. It's part of the horror world. And the the fact that she's a huge part of both of these movies is so important.
Right. Well, you can really see that she's cemented in horror when it comes to Cabin in the Woods.
Right. And she
and
has
her
a
role in
huge-
that, which we will be talking about.
I wouldn't say she has a huge role, but her role in that is
big.
Yeah. This is a movie that takes place in space. It takes place in the distant future.
Yes.
And it's about just the miners, I guess.
Yeah, they're bringing something back to Earth.
They are hauling this mineral, and this, like, I think based on the visuals, it's kind of hard to figure it out, but it looks like the ship is kind of tiny, but they're hauling this massive just like storage thing behind them.
Right.
Which in space, that's fine because you can just grab stuff and haul it because whatever, but it's so much bigger than the ship, or maybe that's just how I remember it. But on their way back, they're in hypersleep because you're not gonna. I mean,
it's like 7 years or something.
right? You're not just gonna wander around. It's not like you're an alien who can just watch movies and dye your hair all day.
Yeah.
Right. But they wake up. They're asleep and they wake up and they're like, what woke us up? And so the captain of the ship goes to talk to the computers.
Dallas, yeah.
Yeah,
the
Dallas goes to talk to the motherboard, which is Mother, who says that it detected a signal, kind of an SOS from somewhere nearby. So they're like, that's weird. We got to go check it out. So they go and they check it out. Bad things happen from there.
You
yada,
should just
yada, yada, they all
never
die.
do that. Yeah, just
Right.
don't do that.
Right. If anybody ever needs help, just ignore them.
When it comes to extraterrestrial, I guess this is like so far in the future that maybe it's different, and we do know that, extraterrestrials exist.
Right.
And so it's different. But like if it were today's standards, you would not do that.
Well, do they know that though? In these movies, are aliens like a thing?
They never really say.
Right. They just see this thing. They know it's a monster. They never really question the fact that it's like an extraterrestrial being because it doesn't really matter. It's trying to kill them.
Right. At that point, it's moot. But they go down there. Ash and Ripley are back at the ship, and they stay there because just protocol.
Yeah.
So the rest of the crew goes out there. They find these eggs.
Yeah.
And they kind of split up. Another big mistake.
Yep.
And then
Kane,
or Lucky John Hurt, gets a face hugger.
Yep.
To the face.
Yeah. Jumps out of the egg, breaks through. Like watching this scene when I first saw it, because I already knew about the facehugger thing. I was like, oh, he'll be fine because he's wearing a helmet. He must take it off or something.
Yeah.
So when the thing jumped at him, I was like, oh, that's not really that scary because he's wearing a thing on his face. But it breaks through.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. It constricts and is just on his face. The crew finds him. He's still alive. They try to cut this thing off.
By the way, Twin Peaks watch.
Oh God.
2021. Twin Peaks watch. Harry Dean Stanton. He plays one of the just guys on the ship. He's
Crew
the
members.
Guy with he's the guy with the hat. He's like the lanky, tall one.
Yeah.
He's in Twin Peaks. He's in Fire Walk with Me, and I believe he comes back for The Return. So, Twin Peaks watch 2021.
What makes it scary?
What makes it scary? Go on.
Anyway, they take him back. Ripley, being the smart girl that she is,
She's
like,
the most intelligent character.
Not letting you on the ship because you have to go into quarantine. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know that triggered everyone listening. But you have to do that. And that's the protocol because we can't all die.
Can't let you on the ship.
Ash, the asshole that he is like...
Ashhole.
Yeah, the asshole. Just lets him in.
Yep.
And it's like... Okay,
overrides
so
protocols.
They take,
for whatever reason, she doesn't... Nothing comes of this. She's not like mad at it.
well, it's
I mean,
so
she
hard,
is, but
like, 1979 women, it just doesn't hold the weight as it does today.
although
unfortunately.
that's a note about this movie is that none of these characters were written to be male or female.
I remember you saying that.
They were
and
all
it's
just
whoever they cast.
Yep, they were just written to be characters, and then they did that. Similar to we talked about Night of the Living Dead, how that main character wasn't written to be black, but casting a black person adds a lot of layers to the movie. Same thing here.
Right.
Like she's not believed, she's not taken seriously. That wasn't part of the story, but it just kind of came out that way.
Right. So they take Kane, who still has the face hugger, to the med bay. They try to cut it off, and all of a sudden, like all this green blood or bile, whatever it is, drips onto the floor, and starts eating through the hall.
It's and they have to
acid
run
blood.
and chase it down, and they're like, it's gonna eat through the damn hall. It stops before it does, which is good. But what a scary idea!
Oh my
acid
gosh.
blood. Ooh.
Yeah. It's like, you ever, okay, I know you probably don't work with like bleach much, but I do at my job. And it's always just like, man, when you're pouring bleach and it's like, if you get one fucking drop on something, it just ruins it, takes the color out of it, no matter what it is. And you're just like, if you get one drop of acid on you, you're fucked.
Yep, for sure. And that happens a lot throughout this series. But eventually they're just like, well, nothing to do. I guess we'll just, Ash is running more tests, but there's not really anything they can do about it.
Right.
And eventually it just falls off. They like come in one day and it's
it-
just laying on the
and
ground.
It's dead.
And Ash wakes up.
Think it's dead.
Right.
Kane
Yes,
wakes up.
Kane wakes
not
up.
Ash.
Right.
So they're like, oh, we're so happy you're alive. Isn't this crazy? Blah, blah, blah. Let's eat dinner.
And they have a nice family dinner.
We have the most iconic scene.
Everyone knows
that
the scene.
Everyone has parodied.
Yep.
Everyone knows it.
Spaceballs.
It's almost as famous as the
Oh,
of
yeah,
Psycho.
for sure.
We get a chest burster.
The chest burster. It's terrifying. So, Kane starts coughing and then he like falls over and then this like thing erupts from his chest. Classic movie trivia. Everyone knows this as well. This was kind of, they knew that something was going to happen.
Yes, I had mentioned this in a previous episode.
Yeah, but they didn't know exactly.
The cast did not
Right.
know what the alien would look like.
They didn't know.
They didn't know how much blood was going to be there.
Right.
And they did all of this in one take because it would have been a nightmare to clean it up.
Yeah. So.
And like I said before, we had Veronica Cartwright. She plays
Yes.
Lambert.
Right.
And she screams and accidentally slips on the blood and falls, and they keep it in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's not supposed to happen, but
Sometimes you just find these little accidents and you're like, gold, leave it in. It's good.
yes. Veronica Cartwright being from
The
the Birds. She plays little Kathy.
Yeah.
And now we have her in this movie.
So we've seen her twice.
Yep.
Funny.
So then the chestburster runs away. Now we have this huge cat and mouse game.
Yeah, they gotta go find it.
Crew members are getting picked off one by one. This thing grows at an astronomical rate.
It's like 2 hours. It feels like it takes place in real time almost. Like almost no time passes in this movie. Like this thing is already huge. It
Right.
just runs off, pops into giantness. This is impossible because creatures like need to eat to grow. Like matter can't be
Yes.
created or destroyed. You have to eat food, and that's how you grow. And this thing doesn't really. It doesn't eat anything. There's nothing to eat except for, like the people, but it
Well,
doesn't
it is
really
eating
like
people.
eat them. So
Well, it doesn't string them up like Predator, which we'll talk about next. But
anyway, it's big now. It's hunting them off one by one. Eventually, it just gets. Well, actually, we're missing the scene where we find out that Ash is.
a droid.
Ash is a goddamn robot.
That's a pretty scary scene.
It is.
He tries to kill Ripley.
Yeah.
And like with a newspaper.
Oh yeah, he's like choking.
But
her.
it's a super intense scene. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He gets hit and he's like bleeding. It like milk.
Yeah.
And it is. I looked this up. Apparently, it was
milk.
like milk and pasta and just like stuff like that. It's
That's
disgusting.
so gross.
But they end up taking him out, knocking his head off, and you see that he's this machine, and he was deliberately trying to get the thing in the ship to like
to take it back and study it.
right.
So
because
he's basically responsible for this whole thing.
yeah.
Leave it to a fucking droid. I think we forgot to mention that Ash is played by
Oh, Ash is
Bilbo
played by-
Baggins
Yep.
himself.
Baggity bomb bomb.
Yeah.
Tom Bombadil.
Not Tom Bombadil.
So yeah, that's fun, but it's fine because they torch his head, so he's not in the movie anymore.
Good.
He's scary. But yeah, and then so eventually it does end up to just 3 characters. You got the alien, you got Sigourney Weaver, you got Jonesy the cat,
And you got the good kitty
the kitty cat. Thankfully, the cat survives. They
yeah.
she puts it in a storage pod, which I don't know if she puts it in the same one that she sleeps in.
Yes, because you
Okay.
can see it on her.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. At least they sleep together.
Chaos ensues, and it's a great movie. If
Yeah.
you haven't seen it for some reason, go watch it. It's
Yeah.
very thriller intense at the end.
You do have to be in the right mind space for it, though. Definitely like try to like settle yourself down because it is a slower movie. It's not exciting, but it's fun. She gets away. They kill the alien by like blasting it to space, and then she gives this message. She's like, "This is Ridley Scott, last surviving."
Not Ridley Scott.
Oh, right. Of the Nostromo. That's the name of the ship.
Ripley.
Signing off, and then that's the movie.
Right.
Good movie.
It then will have 1,000,001 sequels that go from these aliens just never stop dying. They go through, they basically kind of take on the traits of whatever host that they inhabit. They inhabit dogs. They inhabit predators at one point, and it's crazy. It's a whole lore.
Yeah, and it gets weird. It gets deep. It gets very convoluted.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
People get so mad about like inconsistencies in a story. Me being one of them, I do sometimes get really mad at that. But for these movies, I'm just like, just have fun with it.
Yeah, you know what? Just have fun with it.
You know what another movie is that's pretty fun?
What's that?
The Predator.
The Predator. well, not The Predator. That's a bad movie. But Predator came before.
Came out in 1987.
I love this movie. It's a lot of fun. It is the pinnacle. It is the peak of just like the bulky 80s. Just like everything is bulky. The guns are bulky. The
people are
biceps
bulky.
are bulky. The accents are bulky. Arnold's out. He's there. He's having a blast. Iconic movie for very different reasons. Get to the chopper. If it bleeds,
Do it now.
do it now. Kill me. I'm here. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Classic movie. I love it so much.
I remember we had just watched this, maybe 5 years ago?
Yeah,
we like went through and watched all of the aliens, all of the predators, because I had never seen them
just
before.
for fun. This wasn't even for the podcast. We just wanted to.
Right. And I remember like starting the Predator movie and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because it's just like a war movie.
This movie, it's a trick. It psychs you out because it starts, like you're right, it starts off, it's this military kind of commando unit, not commando, that's commando, but it's this military unit, and they're going into this fictional country to extradite some prisoners of war or something like that. And there's a lot of sequences of just, wartime fighting, generic kind of Vietnam-esque, just blasting people with guns and everything. It's kind of boring. It's not exactly, it's fun because it's action and whatever, but it's not horror. It's just kind of whatever that is. But it's a psych out. It's a fake out, rather. It's meant to get you in this mindset
Get you in the jungle.
Right. Like, look at these get you in the jungle. Look at these like powerful men who can just take care of anything and just blast through anything. But they're no match for the Predator.
Welcome to the jungle.
Welcome to the jungle.
We got predators.
Wow.
Okay, there's not really much more to this movie. It's this predator, extraterrestrial alien type thing has come to Earth to kill
For sport.
Yeah, it's
kill-
like the game.
Yeah. The most dangerous game. Yeah.
That's what it is.
And again, they get picked off one by one. It's just Arnold at this point, and he is able to eventually wound the thing enough that it detonates a self-destruct thing, blows itself up, and he gets away. He gets to the chopper.
Yeah.
And they fly off.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
And this might be controversial
Okay.
to like all our listeners. Which do you like better, Predator or Alien?
Now, that's such a hard question.
To me, it's not.
Well, there's two answers to it.
Okay.
There's what movie do I enjoy watching more?
That's not what I asked, but go ahead.
And then which movie do I think is better?
No. I'm not asking you about movies. I'm asking like a xenomorph or a predator. Which one do you like better? You can answer those other questions.
The xenomorph I like better.
I agree.
Okay, good. The Predator has
It's too humanoid.
It is too humanoid, but also it's just because it came out in that time that like when it did, it just looks bulky. And I don't even mean that in the 80s way. I just think like it just has too much stuff on it.
It does. It has like dreads. It has the armor. It has...
Yeah, it takes up too much space. It just has too many loose things. If you were a predator wandering through the jungle, you would want to be like sleek and take up as little space as possible to like maneuver through the jungle better. But this thing is just like big and just kind of, it just feels awkward and clumsy, even though it's not. So The xenomorph is like a creepy, just stalkery thing that like slithers around.
Well, it's almost mechanical as well.
Yeah.
So funny, the same guy who played like a xenomorph also played the Predator, because he's like this like 6'6" person. I should have looked up his name because he did a lot of roles like this, and he unfortunately died at a very young age.
A lot of super tall people do.
Yeah, but super cool that he got to play like both of these, and then they go on to make movies where they are fighting each other. So, super cool.
You know what we didn't talk about? Bill Paxton.
I know, he's in both of them well.
He's in both of them. He's in both of the 2 movies. He's in Aliens and Predator 2.
And
a terrible movie.
It's fucking game over is what it is.
It's game over, man. It's game over.
Do it.
Do it now. But yeah, Predator 2, we're not going to get into it, but Gary Busey, we've met him before.
Oh my gosh.
In the podcast.
Donald Glover, and he's too old for this shit.
he really is too old for this shit. But it's a fun movie, but in a very different way.
I remember that being the very first thing I had ever seen of the Predator was the bathroom scene where he like blows into this lady's like bathroom in the apartment, and then just like busts through the door and like runs out in the hallway. And I think it was on the Sci-Fi Network.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, this shit's weird. And then he changed the channel.
Nice. You really do see a lot of like clips of movies back when TV existed.
Yes, when you actually had to like wade through commercials and go to the TV Guide channel to figure out what was on.
I remember seeing clips
Remember the good old days?
Yeah, the good old days. Seeing clips of Nightmare on Elm Street and being like, "Whoa, what's
terrifying.
this?" Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying.
Not an alien, Freddy Krueger.
That we know of.
What if, man? What if?
Okay. So those are pretty much the big ticket extraterrestrial.
Oh yeah, and then Alien versus Predator, they teamed up.
Well, like I said, that's what I said.
Yeah.
It all kind of gets lumped into one huge thing.
Yep.
And that's when we say, "Hey, we're going to talk about Alien." We knew that's what everybody would be thinking that we're talking about. But I mean, there's a million other things.
There's so much else.
We are going to go back to 1954.
Picture it. The Cold War is at its earliest stages. Communism is terrifying. Everyone's scared of it.
And we get this book.
Yeah.
Or it eventually turned into a book. It's called The Body Snatchers. It originally started as a serialized magazine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And eventually kind of like a radio program as well. It was written by Jack Finney.
Mm-hmm. I haven't read this.
You never read this?
No,
or you did read it? No.
I try to read the books that we talk about on this. Sometimes, like I read Dracula. That was fun. Didn't read this, but we did watch the movie.
We watched many renditions of this movie.
Yes, we did.
We started with the magazine series, came out in 1954. The first invasion of the Body Snatchers came out in 1956.
Yes. This is a classic 50s sci-fi movie. When you think about like 50s sci-fi horror, this is what you think of. The title alone is just so of that time.
Oh,
Invasion
so
of
good.
the Body Snatchers. Yeah, and it's so like powerful.
This came out 4 years before Psycho, which I think is very important to say.
Wow, yeah. Interesting.
Because it really does have a lot of that flavor.
It kind of does.
But it's no Psycho.
It's no Psycho.
Not at all.
So this movie stars a man named Kevin McCarthy, who we were watching the movie and I didn't recognize him at first, but I think a part of me was like, I know I've seen this guy before, so I looked him up. He plays in the movie UHF, the Weird Al Yankovic movie from the 80s, where he plays the bad guy who runs the evil TV station. And it's so funny to watch him in this movie because he's such a like dick in that movie.
Yeah.
Like I remember him distinctly saying, "What's the matter, kid? You got wax in your ears." And that's what I just imagine him saying in this movie all the time. So it's pretty funny.
So it's pretty hilarious, and I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
This is a black and white film.
Yep.
It first takes place, like we said, Kevin McCarthy, he plays Dr. Miles Bennell. And the first we see of him, he's in this police station, FBI agency type building. they're bringing in a doctor to talk to him, and we go into the room and he's like, listen, I'm not crazy. Like, they're out there and they're going to get us.
He's saying, Jody, aliens, they're real, they're here. But yeah,
what if? That'd be really scary.
That would be. He tells the story of the movie, which is told in flashback, and it starts off pretty kind of slow.
Right. He's a small town doctor, physician in his town, and he has just gone through a divorce. His old, almost like high school girlfriend is back in town. Her name is Becky.
Yeah.
She's just recently gone through a divorce. And
These are not old-timey names like Becky and Miles.
Well, I'm sure like Rebecca
maybe
and Miles, yeah.
But Miles just feel I don't really think of that as an older name.
Anyway,
good talk.
So they're kind of rekindling, getting to know each other again as adults and all that stuff. And Becky has this friend who's like, kind of talking some nonsense. Her friend is like, her friend, who I don't have the name of, is like, my father is not my father.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't, he's like, he's in his body and he has the memories of my father, but when I look in his eye, it is not my father.
She just has this like sense of it.
And, so the doctor, Miles, is like consulting with another doctor, and he's like, yeah, I've been seeing this for a couple of weeks now. People, it's almost like it's a disease or something. They're having dementia. They're not believing that their family members are who they say they are. And Miles actually has like a young boy come in who's sobbing, and his grandmother brings him in, and he's like, the grandmother's like, he doesn't want to go home because he says his mom is not his mom.
Ooh. That's spooky stuff right there.
The other doctor's like, it resolves in a couple of days. They kind of snap out of it or whatever. So I'm not too concerned about it.
Right.
And the other, he's like, it's probably just the stress from the world.
Everything that's going on in the world.
Everything that's going on, which we love to blame that on everything. Well, I blame it on a lot of shit nowadays. I'm like, the pandemic.
Yeah, the pandemic.
So it's probably that.
There is a scene, I wrote this line down, where somebody has they go over, this person who says my grandfather or my father or whatever isn't who he says he is. They go over and just kind of like check him out. He's like mowing the lawn or whatever. He's not acting like particularly weird, and so they're having a conversation with her, and they like get up to leave, and she's like, well, would you like me to stay with you to like just kind of help you out? And she laughs, just like, of course not.
I do remember that.
And the idea is like, no, you're fine. You just go live your life, whatever. Don't worry about me. But just the idea of,
she's
would
like,
you like me to stay?
Of course not.
Makes me laugh. So they kind of just go on and go about their lives.
They're friends.
Yeah,
Teddy and Jack. They're calling the Dr. Miles, and it's like, you have to come over right now.
Because these two are on a date, by the way, Miles and Becky. They go out at a nice bar. They order drinks.
They order drinks. Yeah, the martinis. They get set on the bar and immediately get a call. Oh, you got to go over to Jack's house. And he's like, okay, well, we'll be back, bartender. And the bartender's so sad because they didn't even like take a sip of those drinks or anything like that.
He must have downed those himself.
I would.
Yeah, sure.
So they go over to Jack and Teddy's house, and they're like, there's this body in our house.
What do you mean?
Yeah, and he's like, what are you talking about? Like, where'd this body come from?
Literally, what are you talking about?
Did someone attack you and you like killed them? They're like, no, this body, we just found it. And it's on the dining table, and he's looking it over, and he's like, so weird. It's like warm like a body, but it doesn't have fingerprints. It doesn't have any finishing features of a human.
Nothing distinguishing to make it look like anyone.
Right, but it's not fake.
Right. It's a real body.
Yeah.
They determine the build of the figure is about the same as, what's his name? Jack. The guy who lives in the house. And so they're like, I think it's you. I think it's like your
Teddy's
body.
like on it. She's like, that's you, Jack. That's that. And like, same build, same weight, it's you.
Even though They say there's nothing distinguishing about it, and the frame that they give, it's like 5'10", 150 pounds or so.
Yeah.
That's pretty average.
Yeah, I would think so. But like Jack ends up cutting his hand, and they wrap it up in whatever.
This is wild.
And then like Miles is like, okay, well, we'll go and we'll get the police, and we'll kind of discuss it or whatever. And so you just stay here, and we're gonna go. Well, Jack falls asleep, and Teddy's kind of walking by this body, and she noticed that this cut has now appeared on its hand, and that's enough for her to be like, we're getting out of here.
We got to get the hell out of here. Yeah.
So they leave. They come back. The body's gone.
Yep. Of course it is. Of course it is.
Right. That's strange.
Oh, yeah.
And weird. And so everybody just kind of like Teddy and Jack go back to Miles's house, and Becky goes back to her house, and they're discussing it more, and they're like, maybe Becky should come and stay with us just because
everyone's together.
Everyone's kind of scared about it. Miles goes over there, crawls in through the basement
for some reason. I guess the door's locked.
Something like that. And finds a body that looks exactly like Becky in their basement.
Yeah, in the basement. Yeah. And it's very creepy.
So he's like, oh, fuck, like shit is going down. He grabs his girlfriend, gets out of the house.
He picks her up, carries her out of the house, kidnaps this woman.
Yeah.
Like her father lives there.
Yeah.
He kidnaps this woman.
But so they wake up the next morning, and they're starting to piece it together. Okay, obviously there's like body doubles out there that are coming to get us.
Right.
And whatever. And even Becky's like, I think they've got my father, because like when I saw him last night, it just wasn't him, and I just thought it because I was gone for so long.
Yeah.
And now I'm back, and he's just different.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like later that night, and then they find these huge pods in their backyard. There's 4 of them, and they just start bubbling and spewing and just.
This is wild.
Yeah, this was a crazy scene. Then they start just kind of like producing bodies.
Uh-huh.
And so then they run, and then it just becomes like this huge cat and mouse again chase.
Right.
And the more that they kind of go along with it, it seems like everybody in the town is in on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they just like everyone's trying to get them. They stop for gas. The gas attendant puts 2 pods in their trunk.
Right.
Like everyone is out to get them.
Yeah. They end up getting, I think they go into Miles' work, his lab. They get separated from the other couple. Mm-hmm. And so it's just Becky and Miles, and they're like kind of waiting it out. And they see outside, they like look out and they see these trucks pull in.
With these pods.
All these pods. And then there's really organized this thing that's going on where all the townspeople kind of swarm up. They're taking the pods. They're kind of like not auctioning them up, but assigning them out.
Right. They're like, this group is going to go to quadrant A, and this group's going to go to quadrant B, and distribute them.
Yeah.
So it's like, super organized chaos.
And eventually they get found out, and Jack is there. He's been got. He got.
He got Jack.
Right. And they end up talking about kind of what their plan is. They're trying to.
They're like, just let it happen.
Yeah. They're trying to take over an invasion.
They're like, we don't have feelings, so we don't worry about things.
Right.
And, it's just a better life, Miles. Just let it happen. Yeah. And, of course, Becky's like, I want to love, and I want to have children, and, all these things that are so wonderful in life you would not get to have, even though life would be like super easy, quote unquote.
Yeah. I mean, well, you'd be dead is the thing.
Right. But they won't tell you that.
Right. And so they end up making a break for it. They fight back, and they like take out these guys.
Right. They really just think it's kind of like their town, so they're running towards the highway. If we get to the highway, we'll be safe. Mm-hmm. And they're running, and they can't fall asleep, because that's when they'll get their bodies snatched. They go to this
is what they keep talking about, is like falling asleut is what does it.
Yeah. Even that's when the transference happens or something.
This I feel is very sloppy.
Yes.
Because it's like they're out running, right? They're on the run, and they're like, we can't sleep, because the second we do, they'll get us. Even though, like, if you sleep in shifts and you're watching over each other, you'd think you'd be able to see what's happening, but whatever. Case in point, this is so dumb. They are in a cave. They're hiding out in a cave.
Right.
They hear music coming from nearby.
And they're like, oh, it must be normal humans.
People, like, singing, because, like, that's it's music, it's art, it's expression. So Miles leaves Becky behind, goes to check it out.
Dumbass.
It's just a radio.
Right.
He's like, oh, it's a recording. All right, never mind. He goes back. She's been got.
Yeah, it's like way to go.
Yeah. So he was gone for like 2 minutes, and she was. These things must have found her, placed a pod near her. It switched out, and then they left and didn't bother to like wait to ambush him or something.
Right.
It's kind of dumb. But he finds out that he freaks out. He runs.
Gets to the highway,
Gets
just
to the
starts
highway.
screaming, "They're coming! It's happening! They're already here!" Ah!
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, like, he gets picked up, and that's when we meet him back at this FBI agency. And they're like, okay,
Yeah. We'll call the president. We'll call the FBI, whatever.
And that's kind of how the movie ends. You don't get any resolve.
It's very
It's very Halloween 3. Did the call make it in time?
Yes, it is. It's just like Halloween 3.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's a very abrupt ending. Yeah, this movie is the communism thing is a very like critical part of why this movie exists.
Right.
Just the idea of, because the thing that people were scared of about communism, and it's very similar to the zombie thing, the idea of just conformity to the point of having no emotion. Everybody is just one just cog in this big machine that you have no feeling, you have no purpose, no individuality. You just exist to serve everyone else and just to be a part of this machine. And so that's why, I mean, that's what was going on with this movie in a lot of ways.
So that's Invasion of the Body Snatchers 1956.
Yeah.
We then watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers 1978. So this is even before Alien still.
Yeah, right.
But after Star Wars. Let's I mean, that's where we benchmark.
After Jaws.
Right.
This is a remake of the original, and it is fantastic.
Oh, this is great. It was so funny. I had like posted on my Facebook that we were watching this movie, and my mom instantly comments on it. She's like, she was like, ew.
Yeah, she said ew.
She's like, you're gonna have nightmares.
Yeah. All right, let's go through it. Who's in this movie? We got
this is a star-studded cast.
Donald Sutherland. We talked about Kiefer Sutherland in The Lost Boys.
Yes.
This is his father, Donald Sutherland. We have Jeff Goldblum is in the movie.
Yes.
Jeff Goldblum is here.
This has to be one of his earliest. I think we looked it up, and I think it is one of his earliest works. It's definitely before
early.
The Fly.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We also have Veronica Cartwright. She's back. Third time's the charm, Veronica.
Right.
And Leonard Nimoy.
Yep.
We have Leonard Nimoy.
Spock himself.
I did not know he was in this. I didn't know Jeff Goldblum was in this either. So both of them showing up was so much fun. This movie is incredible. I really loved it.
Oh, it's very artsy.
Yes, it is very technically, like, artistically made. It's doing a lot of things, a lot of symbolism and metaphor. This movie is very similar to the original in terms of its story. But
I just think it elaborates on it more, which is what remakes are supposed to do.
Yeah. It's really interesting to watch these back to back because of how many beats are played out that are the same. Scene for scene, there are scenes that are lifted straight from the original but updated in some way that are just different but really good. So you have Donald Sutherland and I don't remember. Brooke Adams. And they play...
our main characters. They play Elizabeth and Matthew.
Yeah.
So they work together.
In like some kind of forensic lab. I don't know if
the FDA.
Oh, the FDA. Okay.
Because he goes into restaurants and tries to, he's like a food critic or like a health department.
Yeah, health inspector.
Yeah, health inspector who makes sure that the restaurants are clean and whatever. So that's what they do. They do this testing and whatnot. And we didn't mention it in this last movie that like Miles and Becky like had such an age difference. I think we said it was like 54 and she was like 22 or something.
Yeah.
No, it was super, super young.
Right.
But same kind of thing with Brooke Adams and Donald Sutherland. He was 43 and she was 29.
Yeah.
Like it was like we do this all the time and it's fine, but it's just odd as well.
Right, for sure. There are charts where people will take movie actors, like famous movie stars, and be like, here's their age relative to their like young co-stars age, and it's like they have this line, whereas their co-stars kind of just stay generally in the like 20s area, and it's like, why do we do this?
Right.
But it's lesser in this new movie, but still pretty stark.
So their coworkers, Brooke, who plays Elizabeth, has found this flower in the park.
Yep, she's kind of a botanist. She like I don't know if this is just a hobby for her or if she works in that department where she works in more plant based things.
Probably. So she brings this flower home to her boyfriend Jeff. They live together, and puts this plant on his side of the bed and is like, and she's like trying to study it. It's like a very super rare flower.
Yeah, she's trying to figure out what it is, and she's like, it might be this.
Right, and he could not give
this
a
guy
fuck.
even before
he gets body snatched, booty sniffed, if you will.
Booty sniffed, if you will, and I will.
Yeah, he's a douche.
He's just kind of a nothing character. He's just like uninterested. I think in the beginning he's like a little more interested, but like as things go on, he's just like, I don't really care, and then he gets body snatched.
Right, so they wake up the next morning, and she goes to work, and she's talking to Matthew, and is just like, there's something different about him. He's changed. Just blah blah. And he's like, you've always had problems with him.
You've always hated him.
Just leave him.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't do that. I live at his apartment and blah 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 blah. Which is, I mean, unfortunately,
a lot of people are like that.
Yeah, what a lot of people have to go through to survive.
Yeah. He eventually gets got, and he's acting weirder and weirder.
Jeff gets got.
Yeah, Jeff gets got. And she's like trying to figure out what's going on with him. So that's like a thing in this movie where she's like following him. He's like meeting with all these people and having secret conversations.
Right.
She doesn't know what he's doing.
She also, I mean, they live in the city, and she's like walking through the city, and she kind of hears other people saying the same thing, like, they're not who they used to be, and they've changed, and I'm telling you that they're like, that's not my husband, and all this other stuff. And so it's really just she's like,
something's going on.
Yeah, she's just very, very uneasy.
There's a cameo from Kevin McCarthy in this movie.
Yeah, he's now old.
He's old
but
now.
Doing the same thing, running through the street saying, they're here, they're invading, you're next, blah, blah, blah. And he's running through the streets, and Elizabeth and Matthew are in a car, and they turn the corner, and he's been mysteriously killed.
Yeah.
It is a cute little cameo, especially when you watch them back to back like we did.
Right. It's like the first movie has just happened, and now like this is happening.
So they kind of meet up with their friends, Jack, who is Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
And his wife Nancy, which is Veronica Cartwright. They own like this like mud spa.
This is weird.
Business.
This was very strange.
Yeah, very, very strange.
She has to like rub down this man.
Yeah.
Who's covered in mud.
Right. And Jeff's character is like a writer, and he's really mad at Leonard Nimoy's character, who's a psychiatrist, Dr. David Kibner.
Yes. This was such a fun, like, just these two having this antagonism towards each other.
Yeah.
Leonard Nimoy and Jeff Goldblum, and they're just like hate each other.
And
it was
Jeff
so
being
much
so
fun.
young, so tall, so gangly, and you're just like, it's so just fun to watch.
Yeah,
him.
I just love watching him.
Because it's like, oh yes, you completely are Jeff Goldblum, but he's just so different now.
Yeah.
He's just so quirky, and you can tell he was a little more serious back in this time.
Right.
So all that's happening, and they close up the mud spa.
The close-up shop. Yep.
And they then find this body. It's like covered in like hair.
Ooh. That's weird.
It's kind of that same thing. It's not quite humanoid.
Right.
And so they call Matthew and Liz and Dr. David and all that stuff to come down and look at it. They're like,
what is it?
right. They can't figure it out. They're like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So they leave. Jeff's like, I'm going to take a nap.
He got hit in the nose at one point. His nose is bleeding.
Yes.
And he lays down. Veronica Cartwright, Nancy says,
Like almost right next to this body.
Right, which
you would fucking never. First of all, you wouldn't even catch me standing in that building.
Right, I'd be like, I'm out. I'm leaving.
I don't do dead bodies.
But he lays next to it. She's all about like, okay, you don't fall asleep.
Yeah, don't fall asleep. And he's like, I'm just gonna close my eyes and concentrate. Is what I think he says.
I'm just gonna close my eyes just for a second. I don't know how they figured this out, but I think they know it's like falling asleep is bad news. Maybe it's just she doesn't want him to sleep next to this thing. Yeah. But he's like, I'm not gonna sleep. I'm just gonna lay down and close my eyes. And for some reason, she's like, okay, and leaves. And he falls asleep.
And you do see it. Like, he falls asleep and the body that they found opens its eyes.
And its nose starts bleeding.
Right. And Nancy runs back in and she's yelling, and the real Jeff Goldblum wakes up, and the body closes its eyes again.
Goes back to sleep.
So like it's very like in tandem. They like can't.
You can see the transferring
at the same time. So she saw that the nose was bleeding, so they run out of there. They're like, "Oh, this is Jack." Blah 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 blah.
Yep.
They meet up with, or then they tell Matthew that, and Matthew's instantly like, "That's what's happened to
Jeff."
Jeff, Nancy, or Elizabeth's boyfriend. He goes over to their apartment, breaks in, and in their like patio,
they have like a greenhouse.
It's a patio that is just like overthrown with plants.
Yeah, I guess
I know what that's like.
Right. Yeah, you do.
And in there is this pod that is now produced this very hairy version of Elizabeth.
It's very hairy, naked version.
Yeah, but she's
straight up nudity in this movie.
Yeah, but no, there's not, because
there is.
She doesn't have nipples, and she doesn't. She doesn't have like defining features.
Trust me, she does.
No, she doesn't.
I would know,
Alex. She does not.
But he goes to kidnap her, much like the first movie. But guess who's in the house? Jeff. This tense scene, really cool scene of him like
he gets her out of there.
He does, but before then, he's like hiding in the closet. There's this really creepy shot of Donald Sutherland's like face emerging from the darkness. I don't know why this is like so creepy as it is, but it is. He does end up getting her out of there, walks right out the front door. And then there's this truly bizarre scene. Well, so everybody is panicking. They're freaking out. They go back to they get the police. They go back to that apartment. Jeff's there. And the body's gone, obviously. And the police are like, so what's going on here? And they're like, we found this body. And Leonard Nimoy, who doesn't believe this stuff, he's a very hardcore skeptic, which is funny from Leonard Nimoy. And he's like, all right, sorry, officers, my friends here are just like having a laugh, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's just such a weird scene because like Jeff is trying to pretend to be normal, but he's obviously not. And they're like acknowledging that Elizabeth has left, is going to be staying with Matthew. And Jeff is just like, will Elizabeth be coming home?
And he's like, no. She's not.
I'm going to go get some stuff, some of her things, like some clothes. So he's like picking up clothes from Jeff's apartment, which I guess they haven't been doing well anyway. So like, I guess something like this is feasible, but it's just such a weird scene.
Well, it's like your coworker too.
Right.
But there's this instant sexual tension between Matthew and Elizabeth throughout this entire movie.
They want to visit Bone Zone immediately. Like they're like, we need to stop working and just one-way ticket to the zone of the bone. Anyway, aliens.
So it progresses from there. They kind of find the same thing. So Jack, Nancy, Elizabeth, and Matthew are all at Matt's house or whatever, and they go to sleep. But Donald Sutherland goes outside and like falls asleep on the patio, lawn furniture. And these 4 pods. Oh, this scene's crazy.
This is where I think your mom was saying.
Oh, she was like, "Ew, you're gonna have nightmares." These pods just explode, and just the long scene of these things, these fetuses crawl out of these pods. They're wet and hairy, and they're shaking, and eventually they're starting to morph into what these people are looking like. Nancy comes to the balcony. She's like, "Matt, wake up! Like, wake up! They're seriously right there. They're gonna get you." He does wake up. They sees them, and they all are like, "We got to get out of here."
Yeah. But before they leave, he like kills them all by like smashing their faces in. It's graphic.
It's very graphic.
Bull.
Yeah. So they're like, we're on the run.
Yeah.
They do get split up.
Mm-hmm. Never a good sign.
Never good.
Well, because Jeff Goldblum like runs off to distract him.
He pulls a full on Ian Malcolm and is like, hey, because like the police are chasing them and whatever.
They have helicopters.
By this point, they're like, you got to get potted.
You got to get potted.
Like a plant that you are.
He grabs a flare. He starts running towards the lawyer. In the
and Nancy
room.
chases after him.
Yeah. So they run off. And then it's just these two and similar scene, I think.
Right,
where,
they get stuck in the office and
yeah.
And Leonard Nimoy comes and locks them in there, and they're like, this is going to happen right now.
Oh yeah,
like,
Leonard
we're
Nimoy
done.
is one
we're
of them.
done
He
with
has
this.
been for like almost the whole movie, I think.
Right. This is going to happen. They somehow get anesthetic and
yeah, they get so they're trying to stay awake, so they take like these adrenaline pills or something, caffeine pills or whatever. And then to keep themselves awake when they get caught, they're like, we need you to fall asleep so that we can transfer you.
Right. So they get these shots in their arms, but they manage to get away.
Right. And they don't fall asleep. I guess the other drugs cancel it out, but it feels like it would be very hard to do this.
Your body would be like, whoa.
Yeah. If you've ever had an anesthetic at like a doctor's thing and you try to stay awake, like it doesn't work because you're going to sleep. But whatever. They end up getting away, but they're tired. They're exhausted. A lot of, again, similar scenes to the first one.
They find out that Jack has also been taken.
Yep. And as they're running through the street... okay. We have to back up. It's back in 1956. The first movie, they need to... When they're leaving the office, when they're leaving the doctor's office...
Oh, yeah.
They...
I forgot all about
have
this.
to pretend to be one of them. They have to pretend to be
right,
heartless.
you have to be emotionless.
Yep. They're like, we got to blend in. So they go out walking.
And they do a pretty good job.
They do. Everyone's like... Because they're like, we're one of you now, or something. Which they didn't need to talk to anybody, but whatever. And they're keeping up the ruse, but it doesn't last because they see this dog run across the road and almost get hit by a truck.
Becky, she's like, no!
This is forced.
This would be me.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd be like, no, the dog!
And that gives it away. And so the dog gives them away, and they are revealed, and they have to run.
Right.
In this movie, they do the same thing. They're like, all right, we have to pretend to be human.
Well, so they find out that Jack's been taken because he was up there with Leonard Nimoy.
Right.
So they escape them.
Mm-hmm.
They're walking down. They run into Nancy, Veronica Cartwright, and she's like, I haven't been taken, but I've been walking around with them. This is kind of what you have to do.
Pretend to
so
be
all
them.
three of them are like trying to get through. And then
this dog runs out.
This potted dog.
I guess so, right? Like a potted dog. It has a human face.
It is disturbing.
This is the scariest thing I've ever seen in a horror movie. And it like it's like a dog like juts its tongue out and like licks its face, but it's a human face. And it barks. And this causes, I think, Veronica Cartwright to scream.
No, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Because Veronica just is like, shit, like you guys are fucking up. She just walks away.
They end up getting split up again, but this is what reveals them. There's a scene, I can't remember when this happens. There's a scene where Donald Sutherland starts knocking all these lights down in a giant pod factory.
Right.
Am I skipping ahead?
Just a touch. Elizabeth and Matthew run off.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. She's exhausted. Oh, we hear music singing.
Yeah.
He's like, stay right here. I'm just going to see it. He sees that it's a factory. It's a greenhouse that's growing pods.
Yeah.
He comes back, and this is the scene where we actually see how the transference happens.
This is disturbing too.
It's crazy. He finds that Elizabeth's sleeping, and he's like trying to wake her up, and all this stuff. And event like this other Elizabeth, who now is stark naked
person.
and actually naked.
Oh,
has
that's what I'm
nipples now.
thinking of. Probably.
Yeah.
It's burned into my brain.
Is like, she's like, Matthew, stop fighting it. It doesn't hurt, and anything like that. Meanwhile, he's like cradling old Elizabeth's body, and it just like melts
it
and
just decays
disintegrates.
Away. It's awful.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So he gets away, and now he runs into this greenhouse and is trying to destroy it.
Yeah, they're manufacturing these pod things or just kind of cultivating them and growing them. He starts like whacking on these lights and sets fire to the whole thing. And it's this huge chase. He runs off, And I don't think we see the end of it. I think just like
we don't, but people are trying to get to him that have been body snatched, whatever you believe, and they're like screeching. That's what these say. They like they're humanoid, but like that's how they truly like communicate. Is like just this like screeching and like pointing and yelling and like get him, yeah, like that. He's not one of us,
right,
and all this other stuff. So yeah, then it cuts to like either 2 weeks or 2 months later or whatever.
Yeah,
and Donald Sutherland is just like walking around, like almost like heading up to like a courthouse and whatever.
Well, he's at work. He like goes to work.
Yeah, he's like going to work, and it's just very quiet. He's just kind of like walking around and whatever. And then like Nancy's there, and she's like, Matthew, like trying to be very like inconspicuous about it. And she's like, are you all right? I got separated from you guys that night, and blah blah blah. And then so like Matthew turns around and just makes like the scariest face and just screeches at her and like points at her, and she starts screaming. She's like, fuck you. How dare you get body snatched?
Yeah,
and
so he's got.
And that's the end of the movie.
Right. It's a real bummer of an ending, but very memorable.
Yeah. Memorable that I stayed up all night worried about it.
We woke up the next day and you were like, that ending got me, man.
And yeah, I was fine throughout both of those movies, and then they always do that. It's like the last scene,
right at the end, they get you. Yeah, it is a great movie. I loved it.
It's a touch long.
It is, yeah. Especially the chase scene and the like knocking down all the lights. It lasts about 45 minutes, so I feel like they could have trimmed some of that off. But other than that, really good movie. So
we have one more movie that kind of is the same. Along the same lines as the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And that is in 1998.
Yes.
The Faculty.
I had never seen this movie. You had.
Yes. I need to tell the story of how I watched this movie.
Okay, please do. I'm so excited.
So it's like maybe 2002.
Picture it.
Yeah, picture it. I'm maybe 10, 11 or so. I'm going camping like I do every summer with my family, and I have one older sister and four other girl cousins that are all older than me.
Mm-hmm. You're the youngest one,
right? I'm the youngest one, and I've said it before that it sucks being the youngest. We're all camping. We go into my uncle's camper. It's at night. Like, we're all super excited to be together and whatever. And my cousin Carly's like, oh my gosh, I want to watch this movie. It's called The Faculty. I don't know what, like, I guess I just don't understand, because like I never watched scary movies as a kid, and until I was with my cousins, and that's all they ever wanted to do was watch scary movies. And so we watched it. And when you're 10, 11, this movie's terrifying. It's nighttime and you're camping, so you're not like at home.
Right.
Like, and so I've just years like terrified of just certain things.
Mm-hmm. Really ingrains in you.
It does. But now, and I haven't, and I kind of, put it into my brain and just locked it in there. And then so when we kind of started talking about movies, I'm like, there was like this Elijah Wood movie that I saw one time, and like I had to like look up what it was. You
were like, what's that Elijah Wood movie with the aliens? And I was like, that's not real.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, Elijah Wood's in it. It was like 2000 something, maybe 1990 something. I didn't think this was a real thing.
Yeah.
And because you kept trying to like come up with like you were like, I think it's like Evolution, and I'm like, that's
I thought it was Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's got to be that movie, because that's basically what the premise is.
Right. And then there's a movie called The Invasion.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
No, it's called The Faculty.
The Faculty.
So this, like I said, came out in 1998, written by Kevin Williamson.
Yes, who makes a lot of movies that we really love. He wrote Scream.
He wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, but he wrote Scream.
But he wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Did he write I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer? Because he should return his writer's license.
I don't know.
No, I'm sure he didn't. Twin Peaks Watch.
Oh, God. Already?
Twin Peaks Watch, 2021. Mrs. Olsen, who plays like the art teacher, I guess, or whatever, like the drama teacher. She looks like a drama teacher, a theater.
I think she is. Yeah, I think she is.
She plays Catherine Martell in Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks Watch. 2021.
What makes it scary?
And the coach in this movie is the Terminator, the T-1000 or whatever, the liquid
From
metal one.
Terminator 2.
Yeah, from T2. Who he just looks like a bad guy.
Yes.
Like he just looks
Well, he's
evil.
emotionless.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. This movie, like kind of the whole premise behind it is it takes place at a high school.
Yeah.
And this is where like the breeding ground for Invasion of the Body Snatchers starts.
Right.
This cast is
This
great.
is a star-studded cast.
Yes, we have Josh Hartnett,
Yes.
who
Halloween H2O. Yeah.
his character's name is Zeke, and like when I see Josh Hartnett, I'm just instantly like, yeah, 90s.
Right.
Like, you are the 90s. And
he looks like the 90s.
If I was a little bit older in the 90s, I would have had posters of you on my wall. Like, he's that type of person.
Yeah, he has the dumbest hair in this movie.
Oh, it's so stupid.
got, like,
Even
these
for
wings.
90s hair.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. We also have Elijah Wood. He plays Casey.
Yeah.
We have...
A young Elijah Wood, like
Yeah.
12-year-old Elijah Wood.
He's at least like 14, 15 probably.
I mean, he just looks young anyway.
Yeah. We also have Selma Hayek. She plays the school
Right.
nurse.
Yeah, Selma Hayek, who is such a weird...
It's very random for her to be in this.
Right.
Another random person is for Jon Stewart
Yes, Jon
to play the
Stewart.
science teacher in this movie.
Harry Knowles of Ain't It Cool News plays like a background teacher. He's in two
that guy.
scenes.
Yeah.
He like has no lines of dialogue. Very weird. And there's also this real Janice Ian character who is played by Clea Duvall.
Stokely. Yeah.
Yeah, Stokely, right. She is in a lot of stuff where she... All right, I'm just going to say it. She's in a lot of stuff where she plays a gay woman. And so there's like this plot line in this movie where everybody thinks she's gay.
But she's not.
But
She
she's
just
not.
does it to like deter people from talking to
Right,
her.
right. So I just think that's a very funny... Like, the casting in that is very funny to me. But yes, that's our main... Oh, you also have this jock who is...
Usher?
Oh,
that who you're
Usher's
talking
in
about?
it.
Usher's
right.
in this.
I forgot about that. No, and I was talking about like
Oh, yeah. What was his name? Was it Stan?
I think it was Stan.
Stan. It's Sean Hadossi.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And he's in other stuff. I don't remember where I've seen him before, but he's in things. And then you have this this hot girl,
You have two hot girls.
we have two hot
You have
girls.
like the new girl who's Mary Beth,
Oh yeah.
played by Laura
Maribeth.
Harris.
Yeah.
And then you have the like class president, everyone has to dress this way to be cool, like almost like a pre-Regina George.
Right.
It's Jordana Brewster. She plays
Yeah.
Delilah.
Yeah, she's a real Cordelia from Buffy character. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So, like I said, it takes place in the high school, and Elijah Wood finds this like what they think is like a fossil or just like some bug
It's
type
like a
thing.
trilobite thing.
Yeah, on the football field. He takes it to the science teacher, Jon Stewart, and he puts it in water. And
Yeah,
it
like a dummy.
immediately regenerates it. It's like, oh, what? And they're very excited. They're thinking, oh, this is a new discovery. We can name it after ourselves and whatever. And it divides, makes another
Conquers.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all of these kids are kind of in the same class.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start to notice that the football coach is acting very, very strange.
Yeah, I don't think it's the cold open. I think
Yeah.
it is where he like attacks one of the other teachers,
Which is
and-
BB Newworth.
Yeah.
She
Oh,
plays the
right.
principal.
Right. BB Newirth. Yeah, and so all the teachers are starting to act weird, and Elijah Wood, who has like this relationship with his parents, which is very strange.
This was always a thing in the 90s where parents just never believed kids.
Yeah, but these parents like beyond don't believe him. They like hate him.
Yeah.
But not to the point where it's like a Matilda thing where they like hate him. They're just like weirdly just like aggressive and just mean. They're like,
they
all
take
right.
away his porn.
Yeah, they're like, all right, you're grounded. We're going to pull out this motherboard from your computer, which apparently does nothing because he like immediately gets on it and uses it. And then they're taking away his like phone, all this stuff. And his mom is just like, Harold, the mattress, the porn. And so they like throw the mattress off the bed, yank these magazines out, and like, we're taking these too.
Right.
Just such a weird scene. But he sneaks out. He's like, whatever, I'm just going to go.
Right. So they kind of get it together that like there's aliens and they're taking over the teachers at the high school.
Stokely figures it out because she's like, you ever see that movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Yeah, she gives the exposition.
Yeah, this is a Kevin Williamson movie, and you can tell because they're like, this is how all these movies go.
Right. Josh Hartnett's character Zeke plays this drug dealer of this drug that isn't even really a drug.
He's like crushing up aspirin pills.
Well, it's like aspirin, it's caffeine pills, and a bunch of other stuff.
And he's putting them in these pens.
Yeah, these blue pens, and like sells them all over school.
Yeah, you'd be able to see if a pen is full of ink or
powder.
Drugs. Yeah, but whatever.
So he's just like, whatever. So all these kids get together. They find out that the science teacher, Jon Stewart, is one of them. And he starts attacking them. And Zeke just whips out a pen and just stabs it right in his eye, the science teacher. And it kills
starts
him.
Like bubbling and he dies,
And so they're like, okay, I guess that's one way to kill these people.
Right.
So then they all leave. It's this whole group of people. They go back to Zeke's house and, they do some experiments on a rat. And they find out that this it's almost like a parasite that will go in through the ear and take over the brain.
This is kind of it kind of makes a scientific kind of sense because their reasoning is the things are very like they're water based. They consume water.
They have to have water.
Yeah.
The coach is constantly consuming water.
Yeah, like constantly drinking and humans are very water based, so it makes sense that they're trying to like take humans. But that means if they like waterify them, if they like dehydrate them. Sure. That hurts them. And these caffeine is a very dehydrant.
Right.
So they find out that Zeke's powder, which this is what they do for the rat, they like infect it and then they pour this stuff all over it and it just
which is really sad.
Yeah.
So then they've decided, they're like, okay, so if we're going to go from here on, here forward, we're all going to have to take this drug.
Trust.
Right. We're all going to take this drug to make sure that none of us have been snatched.
Booty sniffed.
Booty sniffed. And so they go around. Josh takes it. Elijah Wood takes it. The jock takes it. And it basically boils down to the new girl and Delilah, the pre-Regina George.
Right.
And, Delilah's like, well, I'll do it after Mary Beth takes it.
Yeah.
And
they decide to do it at the same time.
Yeah, they decide to do it at the same time. They both do it. Turns out Delilah has been the one that's been infected, and she's one of the parasites.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So like they kick her out and blah, 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 blah.
They run.
Right.
Yeah.
So now this like huge football game's happening. Basically the entire school has been infected. And now because this other football team is there, they're trying to infect them to spread it.
Yeah, and they're doing it like the football team. They're doing like they tackle, and then while everybody's piled up on them, they like take one of these things
and put it in the ear and whatever.
Yeah. There was a scene, by the way, where there was like the nurse was running like it was like, hey, we have to do an inspection on the school, so everybody was going in one by one,
right? Almost like a lice inspection.
Yeah.
Which is what they did in elementary school.
And they were like checking the ears, and you could almost see like as the door was closing, they were like pulling out one of these things. So the idea is like, yeah, they're infecting everybody.
Right. For some reason, they seem to think this is like vampire rules that if you kill like the queen, it will save everybody.
Right. It'll
that's
like
fine.
Yeah, kill all the. Sometimes you need to do that. Sometimes that's bad, like in Game of Thrones.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, it's got to be the principal.
Well, don't they think it's the coach? No, you're right.
No, they think it's the principal.
Yeah.
So they kidnap her and they kill her, but nothing really changes.
Yeah. And they only have like one left of these things.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Turns out Mary Beth is the queen.
Yeah. And she had done this trick.
Right, when she took the drug where she can like, she has this flap that is able to close her nose off.
Mm-hmm.
And so she didn't actually have to take that drug or whatever. So now she's like in this full form. She's this huge, big monster. And there's this whole scene of Elijah Wood and Josh Hartnett trying to kill her and all this stuff. And they eventually do.
Right.
And everyone does.
Mm-hmm. They
come back to life.
Like just as Elijah Wood gets parasited, Like that's the second that he kills her, and so he gets saved. It's really gross because all these things like push out of his face,
and then they just fall off
and die. Yeah, everybody lives. Even John Hurt, who now has an eye patch because he's been stabbed in the eye.
Yeah,
he's like missing a hand or something.
Yeah,
which is pretty funny. But like nobody dies in this movie.
No. Well, there was this really old teacher that I think died.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a really, really weird scene where the jock is like taking a shower after class.
Oh, yes.
And she just like walks in to find water and like just like disintegrates in front of him.
Right.
It's disgusting.
And then they stick her in the closet.
It's very much like cabin fever spring break or whatever I said it was.
Right.
It's very much like that. It's gross. This movie takes place where? Ohio. Of course it does.
Nothing good happens in Ohio.
Nothing.
You hear that, Ohio?
That's right. I like this movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I didn't have high hopes just seeing like what year it came out and the kind of movie it looked like, but you know, it was fun and the cast was just a treat to watch.
Right.
So, I liked it.
So we have 2 movies left that we're going to talk about today.
Okay, great.
One being, we're going to back up a little bit from 1998 back to 1988. It's They Live.
Yes.
This is a John Carpenter film.
John Carpenter has made so many movies that are legendary. Halloween. Or as I like to call it, Huluween.
Or The Thing.
The Thing.
Which is technically an alien movie.
Yes.
We will not be talking about that today because spoilers,
Why?
we will be talking about it in a later episode.
We kind of wanted to give it maybe not exactly its own episode,
but special treatment.
Right. So we're going to be talking about it later.
So don't at me that we didn't talk about it today.
All right.
I know it's an alien movie.
Full disclosure, it's in our worst horror movies episode.
Mate, this one could have easily been in a
So
worst
you
horror
didn't
movie.
like this?
No.
I did.
I did not.
I thought it was fun. It's a very sloppy movie. It's very like
it's not a horror movie.
It's really not.
I mean, it is, but it's just got so much other stupidness to it.
It's a comedy movie.
It's a very much comedy.
And it's like so many tonal shifts where it's like, what kind of movie is this? It changes all the time.
Right.
It's also a very slow movie. But it was a lot of fun.
No.
Okay.
Some parts were fun, but a lot of it was not. So it's called They Live.
They Live.
It's got starring
Rowdy Roddy Piper.
The wrestler.
The wrestler.
Because when I'm casting a movie, of course I'm like, yeah, let's cast a wrestler. Because they're so great at acting.
Did you ever see Spider-Man? Macho Man Randy Savage.
That's probably I mean, I know there's like John Cena and The Rock or whatever, but you know, back in the 80s, Roddy Piper was not one of the finest actors out there.
Right.
For sure. This takes place on the West Coast. It's basically this guy who
doesn't have a
homeless.
name, by the way. This character does not have a name.
Yeah, very strange. Mm-hmm. He's homeless.
He's kind of a drifter. He kind of goes from town to town, and he just takes on odd jobs, like construction jobs, which I think this was a thing that people did. I don't know if it's still a thing.
I don't know.
But
he also has this, so he meets this friend of his.
Yes, who is played by a guy who is on a ton of stuff. He's in a lot of horror movies, I think. But yeah, I can't remember his name. Keith David, who you recognize his voice. He looks so different in this movie because he's like so young and his hairstyle is all different, but his voice is the same, so it's very funny. And they play they're both like, they're homeless and
So they go to this compound where there's other homeless people, which unfortunately is very common, especially where I think this takes place in either San Francisco or LA or something like that.
Is this a tent city? Is this what people are referring to? Okay.
Yes. It's a homeless community.
Right. And they have this, I think it's a church.
It's a church building. The church allows them to use the kitchen to prepare food for everybody in the camp.
Which this is cool of churches to do.
It shouldn't, Alex, I mean, this should not have to be a thing.
Right.
Is what makes me so mad.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that.
But I mean, I guess if we have to be like this, yes, it's very cool that they
right.
let you
if you're one of these churches that's like, no, screw the homeless people.
Fuck
and
you.
like, yeah, that's bad. Don't be like that. Anyway, Rowdy Piper finds out that the church members, the people who like work there, are running this what seems to be kind of like a gang or a cult where they're like kind of talking nonsense and propaganda about how like they're controlling us, whatever.
Right. It's a conspiracy theorist group.
Right.
Who's like, they're out there and they're starting they want us to keep us down in poverty and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like intercepting TV waves, and
they have this thing on the wall that says "They live, we sleep," and that's what the "they live" refers to. Mm-hmm. And they have these sunglasses, which are rad as hell. They're just kind of like Ray-Bans. They're just kind of normal sunglasses, but they're cool.
No. You put them on, and all of a sudden, it's like you can see the subliminal messaging that these things are trying to push on you.
Yeah, all the TVs are just like, buy our products. And you can see what these things look like.
Yes, and they're terrifying.
Yeah.
They're super cool. That's what really makes this like an alien movie, is these look like aliens.
Well, they are aliens. I think they're referred to as ghouls, like ghouls, but they're aliens, and the whole thing is that they are coming here to enslave the human race, and they're doing it through this kind of
subliminal
brainwash,
subliminal messaging. The billboards are like, be happy, procreate,
obey, consume products,
right?
And so as much as like communism was the driving force for the invasion movies, consumerism and capitalism is the horror in They Live. Just the idea of like you're being made to do this stuff, which is real. Like this is what the news and the media is like. It's just this is a very literal take on all of that.
Right. So Roddy Piper gets a hold of some of these glasses, and this is what basically just blows it all up. The police come and destroy the homeless community,
which is a thing that happens.
Yep.
There's a raid.
So they go on from there. He puts the sunglasses on. He's like, oh my gosh, they were right, and this shows it and whatever. And he's like in a department store, and he sees one of the aliens. He's like, what's up, formaldehyde face?
Yeah,
like just a real asshole.
Right.
Like, wouldn't you want to be like, I don't know, like on the down
more subtle? Yeah, because he like alerts everyone to his presence, and they're all like after him when he could have just been like normal. He takes a shotgun, walks into a bank, and he says, I have come here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
So this is where that came from.
Now,
right?
Yes. I have known about this line forever because obviously, but I didn't know that it was so out of nowhere and dumb.
And said so stupidly.
Right. Yeah. We talked about Ash in The Evil Dead and how Duke Nukem was like 90% Ash from The Evil Dead and 10% Roddy Piper from They Live, because that's another thing that Duke Nukem says. And it's so like he doesn't talk like that in the movie.
No.
Like he doesn't talk like that throughout the rest of it. So it's just so, and like there's no reason for him to say that in that moment. It's just a very, very strange
He
joke.
ends up meeting up again with his friend, and they have the longest fight scene ever recorded.
He's trying to make him put on the glasses, and this guy says, no, I'm not going to do it. And he's like, put on the glasses. I'm not letting you leave. And it keeps ending like, all right, now stay down. And then he's going to walk away. But then he gets back up, grabs him.
It seriously is like where Family Guy, I'm sure, got those like super long fight scenes, because they are ridiculous.
Yeah.
The entire time I was just like, are you kidding me?
That's absolutely true. This fight scene has been like ranked as one of the best fight scenes in like movie history.
Disagree.
Yeah. It does feel very pointless, especially because it starts with like, hey, put on these glasses, and it ends with him putting on the glasses.
I don't think he does.
He does, because then it's like the two of them together. And
I guess. They somehow like sneak into the headquarters of the aliens.
Yeah.
And is like convince the aliens that they are taken as well. Mm-hmm. And they're listening in on the big meeting that projects that by 2025, everyone will have been taken.
Oof. We're almost there.
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah. And so they end up they switch out the sunglasses at one point for context.
Yeah.
So there's a meeting of these people, which are not conspiracy theorists. They are conspiracy theories. Here's the thing. Conspiracy theories doesn't just mean nonsense like crazy people, right?
Right.
A conspiracy is deliberately trying to hide something, like a group of people trying to cover something up. And a theory is, I think something's going on that I don't have proof of. So a conspiracy theory is just like, I think people are hiding something. We know things like this have happened in the past. And so conspiracy theories by themselves are not bad. In fact, it's very healthy to have conspiracy theories because people hide stuff. I just want to make that clear because people like to have this idea of, a conspiracy theory must be, they're trying to take over our minds. So
but
that
so
needs
many
to be
of
said.
them are bad.
Yes, some of them are. Anyway, these people who are correct, there's this meeting, and they end up getting some of the watches that these things use, which is another technology they have, which communicates with them. You can intercept their broadcasts, and also they like teleport because they end up opening like a portal to their backwoods. Like they're kind of just, they have this big area. Like I can't even describe it. It's just like this, their headquarters, which looks just like a hallway. Yeah. And so they essentially just end up blowing up their transmitters and everything. And that ends the signal. This movie doesn't really have a strong ending, but the strongest point of this movie is like its messaging and it's like the iconography of just seeing the billboards that say obey and consume and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That leaves us with one more movie that we're talking about today. This
is the best movie we will ever talk about in What Makes It Scary history.
Definitely. I
good.
Strongly recommend that we talk about it maybe on another podcast this season.
Maybe.
Another episode.
You really want to do that?
Maybe. But
so 2002?
Yes.
M. Night Shyamalan. We talked about The Happening.
We did on a Worst Horror Movies episode.
Little did we know that there was a movie that was meant to be taken more seriously than The Happening.
Yeah.
So arguably worse than in Final Execution, because we're talking about Signs.
This is probably like the second thing that people think about when you say alien or extraterrestrial movies.
Yeah.
They say Alien, and then they say Signs. With Mel Gibson.
Now, when this movie came out, it was scary. People were scared of it.
I completely remember people being like, this is the scariest movie I've ever seen. And like people didn't go to corn mazes. And like it seriously was a huge thing.
Right.
I remember it. Mm-hmm. And I, of course, was like, well, then I'm not going to watch it.
For sure. Yeah, you were not for it.
I am all about just avoiding things that scare me.
Yeah. So we start out with a Looney Tunes intro. Like it's like this red. There's this circular gradient in it. It looks just like the Looney Tunes logo for the credits. So already we're out to a great start.
Yes. Now I am gonna say, watching Signs and then also watching like Scary Movie 3.
It is perfect.
Like Scary Movie 3 did not have to try hard.
It's not a parody. It's just the movie.
Yeah, they could have just used the film.
I don't know what it is about this movie. Like both of the main characters, Joaquin Phoenix and Mel Gibson, their characters are so stupid.
Well, they don't have people skills.
No, not at all.
They're not socially
adept, right?
Yeah.
They just like can't communicate with like each other or with other people. They're just so awkward, like socially awkward and just weirdos. They're just a bunch of weirdos.
Weird.
And so the whole thing about this movie is Mel Gibson's a farmer. His wife...
His name is Graham.
Yes, his name is Graham. His wife has died in a car accident that M. Night Shyamalan was... did. And Joaquin Phoenix is his brother. His name is...
Merlin.
Merrill.
Merlin. He's a wizard.
He might as well be.
Dude, he could be. Who knows?
Who has moved in with them because of the tragedy
to help take care of his two kids.
Yep.
Morgan, who's played by Rory Culkin,
who we've seen
in Scream
4. Yep. And Abigail Breslin,
who we've seen in Zombieland.
Yes. So a lot of connections coming together here.
Yeah.
And these two are just they're such clowns. Joaquin Phoenix character is such a real joker.
He's like, I was like, he's like the definition of a 40-year-old virgin.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the energy that he gives off. And like, you have
Absolutely.
never seen a woman naked.
Right.
Like, that type of weird.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And he, so his character is supposed to be a jock. And I find the casting of this movie to be like spectacular, like so good.
And
because he is not a jock type at all.
Right. And Mel Gibson's character, Graham, like not far behind, like just very socially awkward, just doesn't connect well. Used to be a pastor.
Yes, he used to be a man of faith, but because of what happened to his wife,
he's completely lost his faith.
Right.
And doesn't want to be called father, just doesn't believe in any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
The movie opens, Mel Gibson wakes up.
He hits his head on the light twice.
We cannot do this. And the kids are screaming out in the cornfield, and they run out there and they find that there's a crop circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they turn on the news, and there's like other crop circles that have been popping up in India and China and like just all over the world.
Right. And they bring in the sheriff in town, who she's in the show 24. She plays like the president in one of the later seasons. She's in a lot of stuff. She's famous, and I think she's one of the best parts of this movie.
Oh no. I mean, yeah, she's probably pretty good, but I'm telling you, when Rory Culkin is your best actor in the movie, and I do believe he does a great job, but if he is the best actor in your movie, you have a problem.
He's acting alongside Mel Gibson.
Yeah, right? And I've seen Mel Gibson movies. Like,
yeah, he's an actor. Like, he can act. He's not a great person. He's a terrible person, but he can act. Joaquin Phoenix is an amazing actor.
Yeah. I'm like,
what's happening?
What? Why?
That said, I've said this before, but these are the only two characters who could have played, actors who could have played in this movie, because as much as this movie is nonsensical and just bizarre, it would have been like unwatchable with anybody else. The fact that it's these two, they bring such a strange energy to this movie that just nail it.
Yeah. And we'll just kind of touch on like just a few parts of this, because I mean, you've either seen it or you haven't. If you haven't seen it,
do yourself a favor.
You have to. It's like part of culture, like what we've said. It's like history of it. So you do need to go and watch it. So like they're slowly starting to put it together that like, oh, these aren't people making these crop circles. They're just like these like things. Mm-hmm. And then these lights start showing up in the sky. Morgan finds this book that's about aliens, and so they start wearing aluminum foil on their heads so they can't read their minds.
Yeah.
And
we're skipping over a lot of like the best things about this movie, but you really just have to see it to believe it. But there is one scene where like they're making fun of the kid, well, not making fun, but like there's a joke that when the kids are wearing these aluminum foil hats, it's like, wow, how ridiculous. And then later Meryl starts buying into it, and then Graham comes home and sees him wearing a hat too, and they're all standing there staring at him. It's very funny. The thing about this movie is I think that it's in some part meant to be funny, but in most ways meant to be taken seriously, but it's all funny.
Yeah.
And sometimes
I was laughing out loud.
Yes. Sometimes I do think the comedy in this movie is successful. Like, I think that is a good joke, and I think they do a good job with the comedy. They just completely fall flat on the seriousness, and it becomes funny as well, so it's hard to tell what's funny and what's not, but it's very funny.
Right. And the closer it gets to being more serious, and it finally kind of gets to the night that they're like, oh, it's predicted by like 4 o'clock in the morning they're all going to be here, and they're looking to abduct us, like humans.
Right.
Whatever. So they board up the home. They go into the basement.
Yep.
You can hear them outside. That's really scary.
Rory's character, Morgan, has asthma, and he has like an asthma attack.
But they didn't grab his medicine. This is a really good scene.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even have children, and this like tears at my heart.
Right.
Of like Mel Gibson's like holding him, and he's like trying to get him to breathe like him, and like, talking him through it, like you're gonna get oxygen into your lungs. It's gonna happen like right now, and all this stuff. And they survive the night. They wake up, they go upstairs, they think it's kind of all over. And this is really the cutest scene. They put Morgan on the couch, and then Bo, Abigail
Yeah.
Breslin, comes in and she's like, Dad, they're doing this on the TV. And she just starts like
Dancing.
gyrating and dancing. And
Abigail Breslin is the cutest kid in
she's
this
got to
movie.
be like only 4, maybe 3 years old.
Maybe.
She's so stinking cute.
She's the cutest kid ever in this movie.
And Malcolm's just like, well, he says to Morgan, he's like, well, do you want to watch that? So they go to bring the TV in, and all of a sudden, like, now the alien has Morgan.
There's only one alien you ever see in this movie because they earlier Mel Gibson had seen one in a different house and like had fought it by chopping off some of its fingers, and that's the alien we see now because its fingers are missing. So you only see one creature in this.
Right, and they find out that they spray poisonous gas to like abduct you and whatever. And they, he's holding Morgan, and so he sprays this gas, and they're kind of freaking out. And they get water on it because Bo like is wasteful and doesn't.
Well, there's all these little things sprinkled, these little tidbits sprinkled out throughout the movie that kind of come together. Like the kid, she never finishes a glass of water because she's like, "There's dust in it.
There's dust
hair
in
that.
it. There's hair. It's contaminated. I don't like it. It's
tastes
old. Yeah.
So there's these like cups of water just everywhere, and so it gets touched by this water and burns, and it's like, okay, so this thing hates water. And so another thing is that when Graham's wife was dying, she said, tell Meryl to swing away, and they didn't know what that meant, but now they know that he has to grab this bat off the wall and start swinging at it. I feel like they didn't really need a prophecy to be told.
Well,
that.
I think what it ties into is it like restores his faith that everything happens for a reason.
That is the point, but
Meryl pretty much takes care of the alien, presumably kills it and whatever. They go outside, and Graham is just like, Morgan will be fine because he has asthma and his lungs were closed, so he didn't get any poison inside him. And like he just keeps saying that, and Meryl comes out and Bo's there, and they're all just kind of like waiting to see if Morgan recovers, and he does.
Yeah.
So alive. Like then it kind of jumps like 6 months into the future, and Graham has now like gone back to the church.
Right.
So his faith has been restored. Now a lot of people don't like this movie because it's like it's just such imagery for demons and that type of thing.
Sure.
And whatever. It does have a lot of the strong imagery of that, but I just see it as an alien movie.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I think this movie is a lot of fun to watch. I think that it definitely was scary when I watched it when I was younger, when it first came out. It was a lot scarier. Now it's kind of a joke. But But I like it. I don't know. It's got a charm to it that like it just worked for me. I was into it. I wanted everybody to be safe and happy and wanted them to get through. And some of the more emotional stuff I found did work, like that scene where he's like, "You're gonna be okay. You're gonna live." The scene where he's telling him, "Did I ever tell you about the day you were born?"
Oh yeah, those are nice. It's written somewhat well.
Yeah. And
but it's just the direction is just kind of just off enough. And we got through this whole movie, and I looked at you and I said, I understand the happening now, because that just means that M. Night Shyamalan, that's just kind of how he directs.
That's just his movies. And here's the thing, they're just not good.
No, and I think we as a society just blew so much smoke up his ass.
For The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got this from it.
Right.
Because nobody likes The Village. Nobody likes The Happening. Mm-mm. Now that I've seen Signs, it's ridiculous.
Right. I've heard good things about his newer movies.
Vision, I think is that what it's called? Vision? Or no, Visit?
There's one. Yeah, there's The Visit. There's Split people liked. So,
yeah.
Good on him, I guess. But some of these movies are just not good.
So that's all the movies that we watched.
Yeah.
There's a movie and a book that you read that if you want to talk about, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
We'll mention it. And it's just a funny tidbit why I didn't watch this movie with you.
Right.
It's War of the Worlds.
Yes. I watched the 2005 War of the Worlds movie, and you didn't want to watch it. And why is that?
I have never seen a Tom Cruise movie.
What?
Never.
Never?
Never. And you didn't believe me.
No.
And so
I was convinced. I was like, yes, you have. Rain Man,
I've never even heard of Rain Man.
Tropic Thunder.
I've heard of no, I have not
Risky
seen
Business.
None.
Ah,
None.
it's unbelievable.
I'm telling you, the only thing I have ever seen Tom Cruise in is the 30 seconds that he's in Austin Powers Goldmember. That is the only thing I've ever
So
seen.
you've seen a Tom Cruise movie.
I guess. If you do you consider that a Tom Cruise
I
movie?
don't.
Okay. That's the only thing I have ever seen him in, and that is the only thing I ever will see him in. It's not like I'm like, oh, Tom Cruise is a terrible person, even though I kind of think he's
There's
a
a
terrible
Scientology
person.
thing there.
But it's literally just like I've
don't
never
like Tom-
seen it, and so I'm just not going to.
You want to
see it.
remain pure.
Yeah,
for Tom
it's just
Cruise
like a
movies.
fun little thing that you can say, like, oh yeah, I've never seen a Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah. Well, have fun with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are the Alien movies we've watched. Now, I have prepared another game for you.
Oh boy.
I would like to play another game as it relates to aliens. I'm going to name an actor, a famous movie actor.
Okay.
And you will tell me if they have played an alien on screen before.
Like,
yes or no?
Like they themselves have played an alien?
Yes. And I try to keep this relatively famous, so like it wouldn't be something like, yeah, Bruce Willis might have played an alien in like some obscure B movie no one's ever heard of. This would be a project that is known. Okay.
Okay.
So
I'm going to do so bad. Okay.
all
Go
right.
ahead.
Keanu Reeves.
I'm going to say yes because I've never seen The Matrix.
Okay. You don't have to tell me the name of the movie,
Okay.
but he does not play an alien in The Matrix. He does play an alien in the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Okay.
Which was around 2005.
I've never
Same
seen
thing.
either. Okay.
right. Let's do Jason Alexander.
Oh.
Has he ever played an alien?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I don't know why.
He does. He plays an alien in Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm going to try to find a way of like putting a link to this in something. If you have not seen this image, it is the funniest thing.
Show it
I'm going
to
to
me.
show you the image of
This
Jason.
makes great podcasting.
It does. People need to look this up.
I'm
for
sure I've
themselves.
seen it. My mom is a huge Trekkie. Oh yeah. I've seen it. Yeah. That's why I knew. I was like, there's something.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
He's so funny looking. All right. Let's go with Henry Cavill.
Technically, yes, Superman is an alien.
Yes, Superman is an alien, so the answer is yes. How about we go with Kirsten Dunst? Interview with the Vampire, we talked about it. Kirsten Dunst.
She's also in one of my favorite rom-coms.
Yes,
Wimbledon.
she is.
No, my favorite rom-com, I should say.
Yeah. Has she ever played an
I'm
alien,
gonna
though?
say no.
Okay. She was also in Star Trek. She was in Star Trek The Next Generation, and she played an alien.
As a kid? Must have been.
Yeah, she was younger.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Okay. Are all of these yes?
So far.
Okay.
Okay, let's go with who's next. John Hurt. Has John Hurt ever played an alien?
No.
You say no?
I'm saying no.
He's
played...
He was in an alien movie.
Yes, he was in an alien movie. He was in actually two, if you want to consider Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Indiana
Ooh.
Jones, because his brain was kind of scrambled by aliens.
That's true.
And if you count that, then yes.
I don't.
Okay. I'm going to say no.
He played in Doctor Who. He was the Doctor. He is one of the versions of the Doctor in Doctor Who. So
Was he
yes.
really?
Yeah.
For like how long? For like one episode?
It was a special. It turned like it's a spoiler, but it turns out there was like in the line of doctors, like there was a secret doctor that we didn't know about, and it was a
okay.
reveal.
Yeah, that is a spoiler.
Yeah, sorry. Kim Cattrall. Sex and the City.
I'm going to say no.
Okay, you think no?
Yeah.
She was in Star Trek 6.
Stop saying Star Trek.
She played a Vulcan in Star Trek
Wow.
6. And she looks weird. I don't have a
I
picture.
bet. I can just imagine it.
Okay, let's last one on the list here. The Rock. Another wrestler.
I'm
Dwayne The Rock
going to say
Johnson.
no.
You think no?
Yeah.
Star Trek Voyager.
Oh my God.
He played an alien. I think the ridges in the head. Klingon.
Klingons,
He played a
yeah.
Klingon in Star Trek Voyager.
Well, I guess my Star Trek is not that much. My mother would be very disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. Well, these were all very minor.
So those were all yeses.
Yes.
That's not how you play a game.
Here's the thing. I had a really hard time finding no's because like I said, Bruce Willis, I did look up Bruce Willis alien movies and I found a lot of like movies I'd never heard of. And so I was like, well, probably everybody has in some capacity. So that's not really fun if like the answer is yes, but for something obscure no one's ever heard of. So I tried to keep it.
You're a cheater.
Well,
pumpkin
listen,
eater.
You did pretty well. I think you got
so
100%
you know
score.
what? Just tell me what makes
All right.
aliens scary.
So what makes it scary is how there's no way to win in games that are cheats.
Yeah.
Aliens have been a concept in our culture, our society forever. The idea of, well, we exist as humans on this planet.
Right.
There are other planets, so there must be other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of them existing as at all just completely messes with our idea of identity, of our idea of humanity, of society. It just breaks all of that because we think we're alone in the universe. We think this is all there is. A lot of religions are based on just like this, like what we see, what's around us has been created for us by whatever.
Something we've never seen.
Right. And the idea of there being something else out there, even thinking in those terms, there's something else out there. Like there's
something, yeah.
Right. Something unknown. Mm-hmm. There's something just sinister.
Okay.
Anything unknown is creepy.
Yes. Unsettling.
Yeah. And then you consider what have humans done to other humans when we've like encountered a new continent, a new race.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
Right. And then you just extrapolate that. Well, what if two, planets meet each other, like cultures from planets? That's probably not going to go well. Now, that is obviously based on just our concept of how things have gone, and hopefully aliens will be different, but we don't know. And a lot of stuff, it's very heady and cerebral and hard to kind of get into quickly. But if you think that because we do not have the technology to visit other planets and meet what could be there yet. And if something were to meet us, they would have far more advanced technology. They would have to in order to get to us right now. They would have to be more advanced than us, which means if a battle of some kind were to happen, it would not go well for us because they would be far more advanced. So just the inevitability of if aliens are hostile and exist, that's not good, and we're going to be wiped out. Very scary.
Right.
And there would be nothing we could do to fight them off. In Signs, they hate water for some reason.
So why the fuck would you come to Earth?
Right.
Where the air is also water.
Yeah, yeah, it's made of water. In War of the Worlds, like, they couldn't breathe our air. The bacteria was dangerous to them. So again, feels like they could have done a little bit more research.
Off, yeah.
Right. But those are movies. Those are fiction. Those were created. Like, okay, we got to come up with a way for them to be defeated because obviously the humans have to survive. So those things, maybe not so in real life. So the idea of aliens existing is scary, but aliens individually, they come in different kind of looks.
Well, they come in different levels of sentientness.
Yes. There are aliens like in Alien, which they're not.
They're just animals almost.
Right.
And they're just like machines that just kill.
Right. The perfect killing machine.
Right.
Yeah. Those things aren't intelligent. They're not reasoning. They're not thinking, okay, I have to take out these people so that I will have the ship or so that I'll have resources. Right. It's just killing.
Yeah. What's it going to do when it kills all those people? Fucking rot on the ship.
Probably, yeah.
Dumbass.
But then you have things like the Predator, which also are just killing to kill, but is intelligent. Like the Predator species, what are the Waichu or something?
Wagyu.
The Wagyu.
The Wagyu steak. That's where they come from, is predators.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's why they're so goddamn expensive.
Yeah, because you have to hunt them down. More intelligent, but still they're not like trying to do anything other than just kill. Then you have like the little green men that are like, we need to study humans, and they're kind of like, we don't really know what they're trying to do. Like the idea of them abducting us and taking us. There's a lot of creepiness that comes with just not knowing why something is doing a thing that it's doing.
Right. And yeah, like you've all heard the stories of abduction. Oh, I
Right.
was abducted and I was probed. And
Yeah.
that's very scary as well.
We didn't talk about Fire in the Sky, which hard to say if that's like a horror movie because it's based on a true story, quote unquote. But it's more of like a biographical sci-fi kind of thing. It is horrifying and it's scary, but I wouldn't really say it's a horror movie, really.
Right.
But those ideas are scary. The idea of like that happening to you, and it's very invasive and it's very like threatening and terrifying. And then you have the why is this happening of it all. And aliens, it's such a diverse and broad concept that I'm
Yes.
kind of rambling, and it's kind of hard to like focus on the thing of it. But there's so many different ways that it's scary. And then there's
and it's different for each individual what makes it scary to them.
yeah.
Because like I would be much more scared of a xenomorph versus like a sentient being.
Right.
Like
Because a
so.
xenomorph can't be reasoned with.
Right. So it's that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you have just like the planetary destruction things where it's like, again, there's nothing we could do about it. Like if they were coming to kill
Yeah,
us, we'd
there's
just be
really
like, well,
not.
I guess that's just it then. And that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aliens are scary, man.
Yeah.
But they need not be. There are a lot of theories.
Oh, is this going to turn into a TED Talk now
Yeah.
where you're like, we need to respect the aliens?
We do. We do. There are a lot of theories that I think hold a lot of water, no pun intended, about if aliens were going to go through the trouble of visiting our planet, chances are very good that they wouldn't be inherently hostile. Whatever resources we have exist outside of the, like water is the big one. People are like, oh, they
Right.
come here for water. There's no other planets that have water. That's not true.
Yeah,
There's water
plenty of planets
all
with
over the
water.
place. There are the Kuiper Belt is full of asteroids that are just ice chunks. Like they can get water from other places. It's fine. If it's humans they need, I mean, why? Why would they not have evolved in such a way that they wouldn't need humans? Because if humans exist outside of Earth, then we're fine. They'll just get humans from other places. So I'm not too worried about it.
Good. I'm glad you're not worried about it.
But
I didn't want you to be up all night worrying about
But
it.
here's the real question, Jody.
Yes.
Do you believe that aliens are real?
This goes along with what I feel about ghosts.
Yeah. Lay it
I
on me.
don't want to say that they don't exist because that's when they will come and get me.
You don't want to
And if I have respect for them and believe in them, then I'm hoping they reciprocate that respect for me.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's what I'm going to say about that.
Great.
Alexander, do
Yeah.
you believe that aliens exist?
Saying yes does feel like you're the crazy alien guy from History Channel.
From Independence Day? Yeah, he totally exists.
Yeah, or
Who
Independence.
played Data in
Yes.
Star Trek.
I love that character so much. But at the same time, just like the scale of the universe and how many stars and how many planets there are.
Yeah, saying we know everything. is-
Oh yeah. Like okay, that's my real answer is to say yes or no is just flat out foolishness and naive. To like think that we have any handle on that. Like there's just the answer is there's no way we can know that. That said, I think it's pretty statistically likely that some kind of life has evolved in some way on another planet. Whether that's obviously it's not going to look like little green men. It's not going to look like the big-eyed bald creatures that come and probe us. We made those up. Like those are complete fabrications.
That's
but
what you think.
That is what I think. But I do think that somewhere out there is some kind of life.
Somewhere out there, there's aliens watching.
Ooh. I just don't think they're ever going to get to us, or at least not
Not
for
in our
like
lifetime.
millions of years. So I'm not worried about it at all. So that's my thoughts. I think if they are intelligent, maybe they're not, maybe they are. We don't have to worry about it at all. We're fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Nothing bad will happen.
Way to go.
Way to go.
Well, that's been what makes it scary of aliens.
Yes, it's been what makes it scary.
So next week, we will be talking about The Ring
The Ring.
series.
I'm very excited about it.
And I'm kind of nervous about it because it is rather scary.
Yes. These movies are very scary.
So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can tweet at me if you think The Ring is scary, or if there was seriously just an alien movie that we missed out on that we should have watched to research, tweet at me. I'm at Clever Girl, the letter F and the letter X. I know Alexander is at Mr. Red Plays.
Mr. is always spelled the long way. Don't forget that.
Right. If you want to tweet at the show, it's at Makes It Scary. And tune in next week because we'll be talking about The Ring.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
Why are you acting so weird?
What do you mean?
What? You're not seeming like yourself.